guys, I'm Brittany,
I'm Maria.
and this is the Be More podcast.
Hi everyone. I'm in my mom's basement today. If you're watching this on YouTube,
We're here.
we're here. So I mean Brittany said you said you had a couple topics, but let me wrap up the conversation we had last time about that serial podcast called the Retrievals, which dealt with like the whole Yale clinic for like IVF people's like situation a few years ago. So the woman just to recap, one of the nurses was stealing fentanyl. Yes, right. From like, I think she stole up to like 175 vials of like fucking fentanyl, which is crazy,
Oi.
crazy. So I finished the podcast, the whole series, and it went through the whole sentencing process. She pled guilty, so it didn't have to go through a whole trial or anything. It was just like when it went to trial, it was just for the sentencing portion of it, nothing with like finding her guilty or not guilty or whatever. She pled guilty. Um, we find out more about that woman's background, which she's like divorced, her husband's like abusive, she has like two or three children.
Mm.
She started doing drugs because like it helped her cope with life, and I'm
Mm.
like, okay, I feel you, that's
Mm.
fine, that's fine, but like don't steal people's drugs that like are going through IVF. Lo
Mm.
and behold, she also went through IVF herself. Is that crazy? Is that crazy? She went through IVF herself, so she knows the pain that these people are going through, not even just like physically going through the thing, but like emotionally. Brittany's just like
Mm.
dumbfounded over here.
Mm.
Which is an added layer, right? So the judge that was here, like in this trial, sentencing trial, um, had info that this woman has like custody like problems with her ex-husband, saying like the ex-husband wants like full custody, so they're always like going to trial, and like that's also stressing her out, all this stuff. um and the problem that this nurse was having is that if she goes to jail, then obviously the ex-husband's gonna get full
Yeah, bye
custody,
bye,
blah
kids.
blah. Right. So the judge is like considering that, and like there's like some legal jargon that I can't remember off the top of my head that like obviously lawyers are, arguing back and forth about this stuff. The sentence ended up being, well, before I go to the actual sentence, I think the maximum sentence was like 5 years in prison, which I don't know if that's like, I feel like that's too low for the damage that she
I
gave to
don't
like 200 plus women. But also, I don't know. I don't know how Connecticut is with their sentencing because it's a whole state thing. You have a lot of thoughts, I feel like.
I I just have an issue with like the equivalent of
Mhm.
like our punishments. I don't
Mm,
understand why the answer to like all of the ways this is like a totally not related thing, but it's like, oh,
mhm.
your options are either you go to prison or like we kill you. Like those are the only or like volunteer service. Like it just like so I see in my brain, I feel like to a
Mhm.
certain extent, right? Like yes, she obviously needs mental help, which she's probably not going to get while she's in prison. So she's just going to come out
It's
and
gonna
be
be worse.
fucking hot mess. Like that's a problem in and of itself. Like everyone needs some type of mental support, but we don't even have enough of that for the people who aren't in prison. So,
Right.
but my other side of it is like, bitch, you tortured all of these women. Like
It's a moral
now,
ethical problem. Yeah.
now all of these nurses are gonna stab you with a needle and you're not gonna have any type of anesthetic to help you. Like that in my
Yeah.
brain, as long as it
Yeah.
doesn't kill her, like I would, keep her in a mental health facility for however many days of whatever, or for
Hmm.
however many people she tortured, let her get some mental help. And then every day that she's there, just jab her with a needle. Like that. And then you keep her there for longer to make up for the fact that she's going to be traumatized in the needle situation. But then the other side of it is like,
There's a lot of obviously facets to this. Like
who
it's
who's responsible? Like the clinic at Yale, because enough people had to
yeah.
be turning their head the other way, should be paying for the mental health of all of the women that were just abused the shit out of. So like it's just like I don't no. I mean, we know the answer to this is that the prison system is a hot commodity for making money. Like we know that that's the answer to all of this, but it just frustrates me that justice is not justice in this country. Justice is just
Yeah,
like
they're like, I don't know why it's just, to your point, jail or some other sentence.
like she's
Um,
so the problem is that if she goes to jail for 5 years, I bet, and this is, just a sad reality, she will not make it out if she's as fucked up as she is.
right. And so there are other arguments which I also agree with, but I know our system isn't there yet. The people that are dealing with drug related issues should go to rehab instead of
Mhm.
jail
But I
as
feel like
like
there's
their situation, which of course, like again, our system is flawed. That's not even an option.
it's
But
and
it
it's not even that.
should be like integrated into something
It
if they
should
are
be a
going to
whole
jail.
more of a holistic approach. Absolutely. But the problem becomes
Yeah.
what ended up going wrong. Well, one of the things that ended up going wrong with our justice system when it comes to prisons is that no one was really overseeing. The prison system isn't run by our government. The prison system is run by a corporation or multiple
Yeah.
corporations.
Hmm.
And I see it becoming the same issue in a rehab. These
Hmm.
rehabs aren't government run. They don't have any, they're making money. They're
Yeah, I
not
agree.
enough of them are nonprofit.
Hmm.
It's so easy, and I know of too many instances where people get taken advantage of. And okay, not to say that rehabs are a bad thing. I'm not like downing rehabs, but I think we need more structured intent and to know who's overseeing or who's in
Hmm.
charge of these companies because it could go just as wrong as our prison system does. But I do agree with you about the fact that we need mental health care. So what's happening to her?
So you want the what the sentence was? So again,
Yeah.
to recap, it was like a maximum of like 5 years. They put it in months, but I don't couldn't remember. I can't remember, but I remember it
Know
was
why they do
5 years.
that. I feel like that's worse.
I don't know. It's like 43 to 60 something
Right.
months. I'm
Like
like,
if
shut
I
up. Just
heard that,
give
I'd
me
be
the
like,
years. So I'm literally looking up the exact because it was so it was so baffling. So okay, here it is. So the nurse's name was Donna. So Donna was ordered to serve 3 years of supervised release, 4 weekends of incarceration, and 3 months of home confinement. And the 4 weekends of incarceration were alternating weekends because her and her ex-husband had every other weekend was like theirs with her kids. So it was like the weekends she was off from taking care of her kids.
so she gets scheduled vacations
Yeah.
where someone else is like on the tax dollar, she's going and getting her food and utilities paid on the weekends, is what you're telling me right
So
now.
like yeah. So
But
you
like
can
this is
you can only guess that the that Donna was a white woman. You can only
this
guess that the judge was also a white
but like
woman.
you're not even helping them. Like why don't we ever look at the cause? We don't look at causation of things enough. We and so this is the one thing that I have to say. I think that when it comes to, and my brain is on this now because we're doing all these back to school things.
Hmm. Hmm.
One of the things that we're doing right in managing the upcoming future generations is that we look at what's happening and instead of one of the things that gets encouraged when you're dealing with children in any way, shape, or form now is that not to punish for the what, but to actually inquire about the why. That makes
Hmm.
sense? Like to ask why things are happening, um, and not just like give a consequence on the what. And I think that's good, right? Because especially when, and this is like a reminder for me right now to remember when I'm working with my kids this year,
Hmm.
but like, it just because you do something wrong doesn't make you a bad person, you know? And I don't know, what are your thoughts on that idea of like,
I agree.
do you, and so like, like there's always a reason. I don't know if I believe in the whole thing, everything happens for a reason, but if there's a end result, if there's a consequence, there's a reason for why it happens, right? So I don't, I think that the more that we inquire about that, the better off we are. But like the punishment for this woman doesn't make, there's no like looking into the why, right? Like, I mean, they understand the why her life is fucked, but you're not addressing the why or correcting the why. So how do you expect her to be better or do better? What are your thoughts, or, like, that's just disappointing. What are your thoughts on, do you believe that there are good and bad people?
Oh wow. I didn't know where I thought this question was not gonna be that. Um
Or do you believe
yeah,
that people
I
can
think
be
so.
good or
I think
bad?
oh, are you saying like inherently are there like are people good or bad like in just within them, or like can they become good or bad? Like what do you like what was the difference between the two questions
Great
that you just
question.
stated?
I don't know. Okay, well, let's answer
I
both.
think there are good and bad people. Okay.
What makes them a good or a bad person? Like, inherently, what makes somebody a good person and what makes somebody a bad person?
I think the older I get, the more words we learn, right? Like your vocabulary gets richer when it comes to like what defining good and bad is. I
I
feel
mean,
like
one can hope
what?
that your vocabulary gets
Yeah.
richer. Not
I
everyone's
I
does, but
I've right. I it's I feel like it's the differing of like one's morals.
Mm.
Like a stereotypically good person has like whatever society deems as good morals, whatever that means in society, right? Whereas a bad person, like we're talking like, this Donna person, like completely just like torturing other people for their own self wellness through drugs and like whatever is inherently bad for society, therefore they are a bad person. Like this is legit, like logically speaking, what is good and
but
bad.
does the bad person, can you deem somebody good or bad based on that logic if the bad person has no sense of seeing it that way?
Of
Right? Like,
morals.
I could see, because I don't think at the level, like with the history that she has, right? And the level of like mental sickness that she must have. I guess you can't really state this without
Hmm.
talking to her more and knowing her more. But in my brain, the way that I'm seeing it is like, say you're taking somebody who
Hmm.
is severely mentally just ill, right? And they don't even have, like, if
Hmm.
you were to tell this story of what they were doing
Like
to
a
them.
psychopath.
Okay, right,
Yeah.
right. That's what I mean. Like, there's like a,
Uh-huh.
like in this situation, I don't know if I see them as a bad person. I think that Donna made some bad decisions, but I don't think that Donna would, especially being a parent and the fact that she gives a shit about at all about taking care of her kids unless she's a straight narcissist, which is also
Uh-huh.
possible. Um,
Uh-huh.
I don't
What
think
about
that if she heard this story
uh-huh.
about like doing this to somebody, like, I think intentionality also plays a part too. Like you said, with like a psychopath, like if you don't have empathy and you can't feel
Yeah.
bad for these people. But like, I'm curious, like, does she have any remorse in realizing
Hmm.
the people? So let's generalize this. The people who have
Sure.
such bad tunnel vision, who can't see beyond themselves, not for narcissistic reasons, but for actual mental illness, cannot see past me, myself, and I, what's happening right now, what my consequences, like what results I can get. But like, are they still bad people? Or are they making bad choices because their mental illness is blinding them of what their morals really are? Like, you know what I mean?
So what about like yeah, and to take it to an extreme level, what about like cult leaders and like Ted Bundy's of the world? Like, aren't they bad? Like, I deem them as bad people. Yes, their bringing probably fucking sucked. Like, they probably didn't have enough resources to figure their shit out. But aren't they bad people regardless? Because that's the extreme, obviously. Brittany's pondering. It's hard, obviously. Like, you can't, placing judgment on people if they're bad or good or bad or whatever.
Like
and knowing
the
like
funniest
their
part
upbringing
is that
upbringing sucked in them making decisions.
I'm the first person to be like, people suck. Like I'm the first person to flat out be like, people suck. But
Yeah, 100%.
and the other side of it too is I'm
Yeah,
also the
same.
first person to be skeptical of people. Like I don't trust anybody. So the fact that I'm the first person to be like
Hmm.
all of that and then still have this conversation, I
Yeah.
which I guess is kind of good because it shows that I guess I still have some hope in humans, but because I don't want to just be like, no, they're bad. And I think also that it's showing that I have sympathy for people who are mentally
Hmm.
ill, which
Yeah, for sure.
that might be a little like personal bias because I know that like I have shit, but I don't have shit like
Hmm.
this. I don't know how. I don't know. Like obviously
Right. Right.
they're not they're not a good person. I think so let's go back to how do you define a good person? Somebody okay, so we're talking about somebody who has morals that acts on morals that
Align with whatever
positively
society
impact the society.
deems. Yeah. Right. If we're
Well, I
talking
mean, I don't know if
logically
you,
stating what a good or bad person is, that's what that is.
but I feel like I don't know if I agree with you about the whole society part because like if you look at Hitler's followers, like within his society, they were doing what they were supposed to be doing.
Right. Agreed. Under the pretenses that if they don't, that they're gonna get killed. I feel
Right.
like.
Well, yeah, that also makes sense. So
Right.
I guess like I think morals are there, but I think intentionally
Hmm.
disregarding the well-being of other people, anybody who takes
Hmm.
action intentionally disregarding the well-being of other people, I guess would be a bad person. And then in that case, Donna would be a bad person because she
Yeah.
disregarded the
I'm
well-being of
sure there
other
are other
people.
ways to right. I'm sure there are other ways to define good and bad, but that's like the first thing that comes to mind on it, honestly.
No, I absolutely get that.
This is just like a personal thing, but like if you follow any organized religion, just because you're of that religious background but you don't practice it doesn't mean like just because you identify as like I'm Catholic. As a Catholic, you're not inherently a good person.
Oh yeah,
Just
that's
putting that
true.
out there.
I mean, we know this.
Just putting
Humans
that out there.
humans are born with sin, right? Like humans are we talked about
Yeah,
this a
but
couple
then
episodes
but
back where
what
we talked about original sin and everything.
yeah, but I think what gets to me is that the people that just like go to church every Sunday, and we talk about that all the time, but then don't like act upon whatever the readings are and like go be bad people instead.
I
Like
mean, I feel
those
like
people annoy me.
that totally fucking makes you a bad person because then you're full of shit.
Yeah. Hmm.
Like, not only are you at taking
But they don't think they
action,
are. You know what I'm
but
saying?
that's worse
That is the worst. It's like they have fucking God can only judge me tattooed on
because
there, and
that's
they're just
like
like fucking
manipulative.
idiots.
I've heard so many stories just in the past like 3 days
Mm.
of shit and people like Donna who just are so, I think lost is the right term to put in there. Um,
Hmm.
and just lacking, I don't know if it's so interesting because like AAs and anything related to like dealing with any type of addiction,
Hmm.
they always even like managing anxiety and managing depression, everything starts like the Jesus, my kittens are like insane. They're doing like parkour around the house. Um, everything comes back to the irony of us just talking about religion. Everything comes back to you need to have a belief in something other than yourself or greater than yourself, right? Like
Hmm.
that's the foundation for AA. That's the foundation when it comes to managing anything that comes to mental illness. You need to be able to get the hell out of your own way. And the greatest like influence to be able to do that is to try to connect yourself or take on a perspective of something bigger than you.
Yeah, because then if it's just within yourself, what is your? I don't get the check
Well,
to
there is
like
no check
like what's
because your
your
ego is going to take over, right?
right?
You're not going to check yourself. Um,
Exactly.
and I don't know if and I'm sure there's people out there who study this and probably say this for like definitively, but so many people, the stories I've heard over the past few days, so many people don't have that. And I don't even mean it in a religious way, just like don't have that foundational sense of self and and like just a greater being of intelligence or just like understanding of their humanity and their identity, and they get like lost. And then so many other things, like the stories that I've like been listening to about um dealing with relationships and dealing with work and dealing with most of it's been relationship related, not gonna lie, but
Mm-hmm.
they're lacking that sense of
Yeah.
self. Like there has to be, like I'm a huge believer, like I've said it 1,000 times before on this podcast, I am not a religious person.
No.
But I don't think that I was truly able to start healing myself as a human until I stopped taking on the responsibility of my life, if that makes sense. Or like stop taking on the weight of everything that's supposed to happen all the time, or trying to understand all, I mean, you know me, I analyze everything, but like I don't try to understand or take responsibility for things that I don't need to take responsibility for anymore, or question why things aren't things that are outside of my control.
The
I don't
way
try to
that
question them.
you, yeah.
Like that's why I have that
Yeah,
I
because go ahead, sorry.
like that's why I got a shirt from like H&M forever ago that says trust the universe on it. Like I'm a huge believer in that. Like I know me, and I think that's my suggestion to people. Like if you start to feel lost, you need to, there are two things in the world that you need to have down pat. You need to know yourself,
Hmm.
understand the ins and outs of yourself, and you need to have a clear understanding of whatever that greater thing is that you believe in and what it's responsible for versus what you're responsible for and what
Yeah,
falls
because
in both categories. And then live your life. What were you going to say?
yeah, no, because you can't like that's also where I started healing, where it was like, well, I'm not supposed to know everything, nor am I supposed to like look into fucking everything. Like that'll just re lead me into like some rabbit hole of depression for no reason.
Yeah.
It's just like you literally just gotta trust the process, which is such like a if you're an impatient person like I am, like it's so hard, obviously, in practice.
mm,
But you kind of just have to
mm.
let life lead you to wherever you're supposed to go, which I also don't believe fully. I don't believe fully like the universe, like like I don't know what the whatever that cliche is, where it's like fate, destiny, whatever. Like I don't fully believe that, but I can buy into some parts of it.
Right.
So it's like just like
It's a
trust the
gray space
process.
for
Exactly,
sure.
just trust the process, like whatever. Um, so yeah, no, I agree with you.
It is, I am on, I have this issue with, and I think it's one of the biggest things that I definitely am tackling. One of the, fortunately, one of the only things that I have left to tackle right now. Um, I don't like the way I said that way either. I got a bunch of shit I have to deal with for the rest of my life. It's not that easy. But one of the big things that I'm focusing on tackling right now is my lack of patience sometimes.
Oh
And
yeah, it's crazy. Same.
it's patience about if I it's like a type A personality patience where if I have something on my to-do list or I have something that I want to get done, I need to get it done. Like I
Right now.
don't
Fucking
want to
right
wait.
now.
Perfect example of this is, and I feel like the other part of that's terrible is like my ego kicks in and needs like support, like, yeah, you can do it. Um, perfect
Hmm.
example of this, which is really stupid. But a couple of days ago, we had to cut the cat's nails. And so we have two kittens now, and then we have two bigger cats that we've had. And the kittens, I can manage. Like I've figured out how to manage. Like I wait until they sleep because then they're half to half. One of them literally sleeps through the whole time I cut his nails. It's amazing. The other one, like
Amazing.
I can do. I used to be able to do our Russian blue bees. I used to be able to do his nails on my own, but he can get a little antsy sometimes.
Hmm.
And his bigger brother, Gunther's like, if I put my arms, like Gunther is like my wingspan. If I pull, like we stretch him out all the way, I cannot do his nails. Like I cannot do it. He's so motherfucking strong. Like I can't do his nails. So it drives me crazy if I'm like in the mode of being like, all right, let's do the cat's nails. And like I literally need Dan to like grab them, wrap them in a blanket, and like do all of this stuff so that I can get it done. It drives me
Yeah.
bonkers if I'm in that mode and he's like not. And it
Yeah.
was so funny because we got in a fight about it. Not a fight about it, but like I got annoyed because he was like playing with Gunter instead of like
Yeah.
getting him. And he was like got to the
Oh,
point where
getting
I
him
was
in, like
like,
prepping him.
I was like, I was angry. And then I ended up having to put like drops in one of their ears. And I was like, you know what? I need help with this. Like, can you wrap them in a towel? And I was just so impatient that I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it myself. And I like wrapped them up and laid them. The I
Like, did
don't
you need to do that instance? Like, did you
know, but
need to be?
it I wonder if I know that there's a lot of research about addiction. I think that we talk about how like in addiction is genetic, and we talk about how
Hmm.
all of like how it I think what we lack understanding is like all of our like your brain is naturally an addict. Like your brain
Yeah.
is an
Hmm.
egotistical monster that just wants to feel good all the time. Like its job is literally to
Yep.
make sure that you're
Yep.
safe and boring and that you feel good all the time. That's literally its purpose in your life. And I think we focus so much on like when we are addicted to things that aren't good for our like health. Like, I'm sorry, but like if you're addicted to going to the gym, that's not a good thing either. You know what I mean?
That's too much. Again, too much is too much in
Right.
any
But
sense
I
of the nature of it. Like,
so I don't know how you would test for this, but I feel like I maybe I'm not addicted to alcohol or fitness or whatever, but I have this addiction to I don't know if it's just the ability to be like, hey, I did this, or the ability for me to be able to say I did it myself, because that's a fucking thing I have an issue with, like having to prove to my fucking self as an idiot. Like who
hmm.
why? Um,
Yep.
like your
Yep.
brain like
So
just
stupid.
wants
Yeah,
you
same. Yeah.
to do that, right? And you that's where like the patience goes, nope, I don't want to wait. It's
We're just
hard.
addicted to like checking off shit on our to-do list.
Right. Like, and that's not a healthy, that's not a, that's still an I'm sorry, but it's still an addiction. And it's not, and I get to the point of
100%.
where
Yeah, I agree
I
with you.
don't, me trying to set up for school, there's stuff that like I can't do at home that I need to do at school. And literally have to distract myself from my to-do list because it eats away at me. And then for anybody who can relate to this, those to-do lists, right? It'll eat away from me that I have to do stuff. And then I'll finally distract myself from not thinking about it. And I'll go to bed. And then I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and it's like, hello, ding, ding, ding. By the way, here's the shit you still need to do that you didn't do yet. You need to complete me so that I can let some like happy endorphins run in your body. Like
Yep.
that is
And put more shit on your to-do
but
list.
that's the exact same thing as somebody going and chasing a high. That's the exact same addiction as somebody going and chasing a high. And we don't talk about it enough. And I don't know. And then the worst part about it is that like the fucking human society in first of all encourages us to be that way, but then our economy like feeds off that. Our economy runs on our type A personalities who need to get shit done because like we become workers in the rat race
100%.
until
Everything
we
leads
have nothing
back.
left.
Everything leads back to religion, politics, and capitalism.
Throwing it back to our
As I've
original
said,
episodes.
as I've said in prior episodes, we live in a capitalistic society. That's like
No,
the
but
way that we're so productive is feeding into all this bullshit.
But
And then
again,
our
okay,
brains are
so
hardwired to just keep, and also obviously just like nurture nature, all that stuff. Blah 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 blah.
the full circle of this, right, is this is why people like Donna, Donna. This is why people like Donna can so easily, and I'm like, people, I'm gonna say people like Donna because I don't know the ins and outs of her whole story, but people like Donna can so easily
Right.
fall into this type of pathway. So because of all of this greater shit, so it's like, are they really a bad person though? Like I have so much sympathy because I know how hard it is, you know? Like and I
Yeah.
think this is just another like going back to what we initially said about antidepressants, this is just another like couple points in the bucket for antidepressants because
Mm-hmm.
those are your options, right? Like if it's almost impossible, like there's not a person on this planet who doesn't have to fight with their ego, who doesn't have to fight with their irrational thoughts, who doesn't have to fight with the brain's main like purpose of keeping you alive and all the shit that comes with it. There's not a person on the planet who doesn't have to do that. And if
Mm-hmm.
your options become, you have three options. A, you just try to fight it out on your own, right? And then shit sucks and then you
It's
become
hard.
me, right?
It's just hard.
B, you go towards any other drug that's going to help support you, right? Or like you try to escape your life. Or C, just go to antidepressants.
I remember my first therapist, way back when, saying like, he gave me the option. He like, do you want to just like do talk therapy, like go through the motions and like figure like CBD, it's CBT, not D, like cognitive behavioral therapy, or do you want to see a psychiatrist? I was like, nah, like, and I was younger, so like me now right now would have been like, just give me, let's get to it. Like, let's just pump me with some fucking drugs. I can't do this. But me younger was like, nah, like let's just talk this out and whatever. And he's like, that's like 10 times harder. But yeah, we'll do this because that's what you want to do because it's your life choice.
I
Because
mean,
it is hard. It's literally just
not
rewiring your fucking brain, guys. Like
I'm
you're
not
rewiring your brain
knocking
by yourself.
talk therapy, right?
I'm not knocking it
You
either because I'm also in talk therapy.
like you need a good combination of both. And it's so funny because
Yeah.
if you think about it, so as of right now, like I've paused my like talk therapy sessions
Hmm.
because I'm doing what I need to be doing and talking my shit out in my life. Right? Like
Yeah.
I'm addressing the
Yeah.
problems that I have with people that I'd be talking about in talk therapy in my life. And I'm managing like dealing with processing crap that I had to process in my life. Like I have practices to do that. So I'm not currently in talk. I usually only go back to talk therapy when I'm like, oh my God, I need somebody else's help.
Hmm.
But like antidepressants are helping with that a lot because I'm able to manage all of those emotions way better. But it's so sad because we only go to the gym because we're not active in our lives enough, right? Like we need gyms in the fitness world because we're not active enough in our lives.
Yeah.
We need talk therapy and like that type of mental health support because we're not actually doing it in our lives. Like we're not addressing shit. We're not processing emotions. We're
Hmm.
not sharing what we're feeling when we need to be sharing it. And we're also carrying on the loads of other people's shit who don't do that if you're an empath. Um, But like that's the ridiculous irony, right? Is like if we did that stuff and we had the tools to maintenance it ourselves, or we were able to manage tasks relevant to that purpose within the walks of our daily life, it would be so much better.
Right. And to your initial point, we're not talking down to talk therapy.
No, no,
I'm literally in
it's
talk therapy.
right. Like you
But it
need,
is very, very sad that in our daily lives we can't communicate with the people we need to communicate and we need outside help. And again, not knocking down talk therapy. It's brilliant. It's helped me so much. But it's just like, what has our society become that we can't even talk to each other
right.
in that
And
capacity? You know?
it is the combination of those two things. Just like running on the treadmill but like not changing your diet is not going to help you lose weight, right? Like you need the combination of things. Like you can control your thoughts, but you can't change the chemical reactions of your brain, right? So like you need to have those two things together. But
you also can't control people outside of you, like other people. You can't control other people. So like as a society, if we're not all helping each other, then it's just we're at a standstill.
and there's no way that we can do that to help each other if we're not actually communicating what we need, right?
Exactly.
So
Full circle.
and the first place you learn how to do that is at home, y'all. Like it's at home. So, which is why the most traumatizing thing in the world is having to change programming that you didn't have, or different program that's different than what you did have as a child. 100% talking about myself right now. But I'm sure other people can relate to this.
Yep.
Like I had
Same.
to,
Yeah.
so I've talked about this before. Like my parents are divorcing, and I grew up, my parents had all of the best intentions, but none of the tools to help them.
Yeah,
Yep,
exactly.
that's end of sentence. That's it. Like my parents had all of the best
No,
intentions.
that's it. That's truly,
but didn't
truly.
have the tools to help them in parenting. And it meant that I grew up with a lot of taking on a lot of their shit that they didn't even know that they had. And I am, ooh, oh, that scared me. Okay. I was like, what just happened? The other recording came up. And I didn't know as a kid that I was taking on their shit. So
we have no idea. We never have an idea.
the analogy, and I don't know, again, if you're someone else who's in your 30s, who's figuring this out for yourself, the analogy that I have for this is that you're a kid and you're born and you have nothing. You're not carrying any luggage. You're not carrying any baggage. You're not carrying anything. You're just wandering through the world like, oh my God, look at that. Oh my God, look at that. Oh my God, like learning things. But my parents had bags of disorganized, dysfunctional shit all over the place that was in the environment that I was walking through. And they didn't even know that it was there to acknowledge it. But anytime I interacted with them, I was the one who was sorting through their shit. Not even sorting through their shit. I was the one who was just carrying their shit as we kept walking, because they would push it onto me not knowing. And then it was my job to keep carrying it. And instead of, as a child, because you don't have the awareness to understand that's happening, you start taking on that shit as your own and thinking that it was always yours, and thinking that it's something that you're doing or something that was wrong with you. And that part sucks. And then I thankfully got a little older and started to realize, like, what is all of this shit that I'm carrying around my whole life? And then I started doing the work of sorting out my parents' shit. But instead of like giving it back to them and being like, this is your shit to sort out, I was sorting it out and then still carrying it. Like I was sorting it out and being like, oh, this is what's happening now. I would have an interaction with them, and then I'd be like, oh, this is what's happening. This is the outfit we're talking about right now. And then I would help them change their clothes and then put the outfit neatly back in their bag and then keep fucking carrying it. And I'm only now getting to the point where I have my shit, I've sorted through it, and a lot of it is like neatly packed away, and I only get to it when I need to.
Yeah.
Only now am I having like an estate. It's not even a sale. It's an estate giving.
Estate sale.
Of me going, and
yeah,
this
take it away.
belongs to you,
Take it away.
and this belongs to you. And I'm no longer accepting hand-me-downs.
Agreed. No, that's honestly well put. This whole analogy.
I used to be at a point, and again, I really truly believe that like the medication and all of the work that I've done in mental health thus far has really helped me get to this point. At the point when I would just be like, I'm not taking this anymore, I don't want your hand-me-downs. There was a lot of, and there was a lot of anger around like, stop giving me your shit, or like reactivity
Oh,
and
I'm
like
at that
being
phase right
defensive
now.
to want to like protect
Yeah,
yourself,
that's where I'm at
and
right now.
it being really difficult to communicate like, why am I getting angry? What's
Mm-hmm.
going on? But and I've been tested 3 different occasions over the past 24 hours, um, to be able to say, do not pass go, in a like a calmer way,
Mm-hmm.
because I clearly know what they're trying to give. And I clearly
Mm.
know how that's going to make me feel and what it's going to do to me. And
Mm-hmm.
I can now say to them,
Yeah.
so this is what you're doing right now. This is how this impacts me. And one of the hardest things I'm still trying to figure out is the communication. And this isn't just with my family. This is with like all people in the world. It's like the thing that we said before with
This is where I
language.
need to get to. Keep going. Yeah, keep
The
going.
it
I need
is
advice.
it's so, oh my God, this is not me giving advice. I'm literally just telling my experience. I cannot fucking give anybody advice on this. I'm figuring my shit out as I go. Um,
For everyone that's watching, me and Brittany are seeing each other in person later, so I'm gonna follow up on this with you.
I trying to speak when you are somebody who really tries to understand yourself and build your awareness and can go into the language of mental health support. It's really hard to communicate with somebody who doesn't have that. They might as well be speaking a completely different language than you, right?
Ding
Or
ding
you might as
ding.
well be speaking a
Yep.
different language than them. So one of the things that I'm still really navigating is, I know what's happening and I know what they're doing, right? I know what you're projecting onto me. I've carried your luggage long enough. I've
Mm-hmm.
sorted through it. I
Same.
know what this is.
Agree.
But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a mental health professional. So I can't like diagnose them, right? And if I
Mm-hmm.
deliver the information saying like, this is what you're doing right now, it becomes like attackish, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
So I've started being like, well, maybe we have to look more into what's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or I understand that there's a lot of emotions going on, but this is how I'm feeling about what's happening. Like
Yeah.
I've started like
Doing that way. Yeah, doing that whole
around
dance.
things.
Yeah.
I and it the more that it happens, the more easy it becomes for me to just kind of be like,
It's
this
practice.
is
It's
it.
just practice.
All of it is practice. I mean, this is the best fucking practice that you can do in your life. And so much easier to do in text than it is to do like on a phone call.
Or in person.
But it always comes back to the shitty aspect of that patience, right? Because you need to give, when someone's been spending their whole life speaking a language and then you give
Mm-hmm.
them this whole new vocabulary of another language, there needs to be time for them to be like processing all of that and actually learn how to utilize it well. And like, I can't imagine, like, we are 30
Mm-hmm.
and we've been, between the two of us, we've probably got 30 years of like dealing with our shit.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being in your 70s and
Trying to
just
figure this
having to
shit out.
really start, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's where we have a leg up right now, you
Mm.
know,
I think our whole generation
which,
really does, as long as we don't use it in like a
yeah,
fucked up manipulative way.
of
So
course,
there
of
has
course.
to still be like some level of patience there. But I think that I've gotten really good at being like, hey, you're allowed to have space, but like, and I understand that you need time to figure this out, but you're not allowed to dump all of your fucking shit on me while you're figuring it out.
And that's where I'm at a stance still. Because literally I was just talking to my therapist about this like 3 or 4 weeks ago about all this and how hard it is, obviously, if you have the tools, but no one else around you has the tools, the same tools at least.
Yeah.
Because now it's just you have to be patient. And I am not the most patient person. So I also deal with like anger issues. So it's like the shortest fuse possible. Like if you can visualize it, that's like me during like some sorts
Well,
of
because
these like
and
types of conversations that I have. So it's like it's
it's
very difficult.
not,
But you have to be patient.
but it's not like that patience is not justified, right? That's the thing that I think that people
100%. Yeah, for sure.
like when you've spent your life
Forget.
like having to deal with the
Hmm.
consequences of other people not having their shit together or not even having awareness of the fact that their shit isn't together, um, you end up having to be the collateral damage. And after a certain
100%.
point, the second thing you start to realize that you're the collateral damage, the amount of anger, right, and frustration of having to take on the responsibility of
Yeah.
someone else's shit
Yeah.
is overwhelming. So anybody in this process, Maria, myself, all of us who take this on, whether it's family, friendships, whatever, like it's not that your anger and frustration is unjustified. It's just
Yeah.
what fucking sucks is that you have to do more work because now you have to manage your anger and frustration. That is
I
completely
think
justifiable.
yeah. No, I
This is
think
all
it's yeah,
bullshit.
it sucks being the person figuring it out and obviously and like working on it. Like it's one thing to figure it out, but then to work on it is like 10 times worse because then you have to give yourself grace to be like this everything you're doing like your anger management, your impatience, like that's all justified because of all the shit that you've just been
You've
through.
gone through, right?
But also don't let it take like put that against you at the same
And
time.
I
It's like
think
don't
that
be
becomes
yeah.
that making taking us full circle. I
Full
think
circle
that
now.
might be a thing that brings us back to the good or bad or like the
Yeah.
Donna situation. I'm just gonna refer to her as
Yeah.
literally
Poor
anything.
Donna.
I'm gonna be like, yo, Maria, I have another Donna story for you. Every time I get like somebody who's dealing with shit, making bad decision story. I think it brings us back full circle of to maybe that's a bigger part of what makes you a good versus a bad person.
Yeah, that's true. I
You
can agree that.
you can choose for anybody who's listening, like Maria and I are dealing with our shit, right? And clearly if we could I could fill I don't even know what with like a large tanker with the years of trauma and bullshit between the two of us. Like we could probably feed a nation, but
You can feel it in my fucking muscles. Like,
you
like,
can,
like
yeah, I need to get a massage. My shoulders are just
I got
so
one
bad.
yesterday. I got one yesterday.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Um, the it's that saying of like it's not what happens to you, it's what you choose to do with it, right?
Agreed.
Like
Yeah.
that I think is the difference. And I
Hmm.
think that does bring our friend Donna back to
She's not our friend.
she's not actually our friend. I'm just
No.
referring to her with a little bit of endearment. I think that does kind of bring her back to being a bad person, right? Because
Yeah. She chose to do
stuff
to
happened to
hurt
her and she made a
others.
decision about how it impacted her. And she caused harm to not only a few people unwillingly, like intentionally caused mass amounts of harm.
I agree. But also like this is a completely different thought exercise, but like the judge and the sentencing could also be broken down and torn apart. I feel like we could probably have another
Oh,
conversation about it.
oh,
we
please,
we'll talk about that either offline or like another episode. We could talk about this
please.
later, honestly. Because Monica is also, I think, listening to that podcast, so we can all have a
Oh God. I'm gonna get heated. I'm gonna get so heated. I so here's what I think.
okay.
If you're listening to us, it's a Monday. This is a hefty amount of shit to take in on a Monday. Now that these
Yeah.
are,
Sorry, guys.
sorry, not sorry though, because we need more of these conversations to happen in the world. But for this week, like I'm sorry, but so many people, things can go wrong so fast, so hard. And it's
Hmm.
so easy for that to happen to every human. And if you're able to wake up on a Monday morning and not rip somebody's throat out and have a little bit of patience and have a little grace for yourself and, take a step back and make it through a Monday without murdering somebody or stabbing them with a needle without giving them any type of anesthetic,
Jesus.
you're winning. Because the truth of the matter is, majority of the human race, A, hates their fucking life. B, has
Unfortunately.
no idea who the fuck they are, has no idea of a greater sense of anything, is completely lost and just wandering through, wading in the water. So if you have any sense of groundedness, if you have any sense of like enjoyment in your life, like if you're a happy individual who can walk through your Monday caffeinated and not causing harm to anybody else, you're fucking winning. And there needs to be more people in the world who are winning because too many people are struggling right now. And if antidepressants are on your list of helping you win, girl,
God
let's be
bless.
friends.
God bless.
That's my little wrap up for today.
As always, I have nothing else to add.
Oh boy. Well, have a great week, everybody, and we will talk to you next one.
Okay, bye.